Hey, I am Kimbo and I blog at AGIRLANDAGLUEGUN.com, and today we are crafting from my kitchen because I needed a big space to spread out because we're making a big mess. But it is so much fun. It is worth it. We are doing resin today. I don't know if you guys have jumped on this resin bandwagon. I have. And it's about to the point where the How I Met Your Mother cast is gonna come out with an intervention banner. I've made so many things this past couple weeks. I posted on my Instagram what I was making and I had so many questions, and I've been trying out all the questions, and I just thought it would be really easy to put together a video and hopefully answer everybody's questions that there is about resin. So let's jump in. Okay, we're gonna talk about the things that you need to get started. If you haven't done resin before, it can kind of be a little pricey to get all the stuff at the beginning. Once you have them, you're good to go, but I had to purchase quite a bit. So I'm gonna show you, there are some things that you might already have on hand, which would be awesome. So that's what I've been trying to experiment with to see if some things would work because it would just save you money. So the first thing that you're gonna need is resin. Pretty self-explanatory. I have a couple kinds that I recommend. They're low odor, which means they're not super smelly. They're self-leveling, and they also don't have to have a UV light. Some of the resin, you have to stick under a UV light to cure it. So I really like this kind by Art and Glow. I'm gonna link up everything down below as well as in my blog post. So if you have any questions, go there. But I really like this one. It also says it resists yellowing. 40-minute work time, so once you mix them, you have 40 minutes to make all the projects. So I usually mix a big batch and then I make a bunch of things with it. So you need those. You need cups and then something to stir it with. I don't like to clean up. The resin's really sticky, so I like things that I can just throw away. So I grabbed a bunch of these plastic cups just from Walmart and then a bunch of popsicle sticks. That's what I use to mix and stir. You're gonna need gloves. When I posted about this in Instagram, I got a lot of people that were worried about the masks and the odor. I know there is some epoxy that is really bad for you. I read the instructions on this. It says to wear gloves and to protect your eyes, but it doesn't say anything about masks. But I want to put that out there because I'd rather be safe than sorry. So if you want to slap a mask on, it's probably, you know, a good idea. I don't know if I'll be wearing gloves the whole time. It's really hard to stop my camera. It's a touch screen, and to open things with gloves. So if I don't wear gloves, I recommend wearing gloves. I'm only not wearing gloves because of the filming. The next thing you're gonna need is molds. Now this is the best part. There are so many cool things to make with resin. So I have a whole blog post up. I'll link it down below. You guys are gonna get tired of hearing that. But there are so many amazing cool molds, and I found most of them on Amazon, and I really feel like they're really decently priced. So I have hair clip molds. This one is my favorite. It's ABC's. We've made keychains. You can make magnets for your fridge. They're such a cute gift. Look how cute this is. Love that one. I have earrings. I have a couple different kinds of earrings. These are all hoops, and then I have ones that are hanging. Have an example. I'll pull these out in a minute. Those are the hanging ones. I have cool coasters that are supposed to look like geodes. Oh, they're right here, baby. Isn't that fun? I also have a bunch of these little crystals. This mold came with like 20 different kinds and shapes of crystals. Let me show you some finished. So I wanted to do this with my nieces and nephews, and so I was just trying to get a variety of things that people could make. So the set of hair clips, it came with 9 different molds. I mean, there's 3 on that one. There's 3 different sets of these. The ABCs, you can make earrings. So those are the molds that I have. My blog post links to so many other fun ones. You can make a tray, you can make knobs, you can make crochet hooks, you could make pop sockets, you could make, I'm trying to think, there's a tic-tac-toe one I've seen out there. Anyway, the possibilities are endless. And like I said, most molds run between $6 to $10, and a lot of these molds actually came with the accessories, which I think is awesome. So like the earrings mold it came as a set with 2 things of earrings and then this whole kit with the jump rings and the backs of the earrings and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. One of my kits, it might have been this kit, came with this silicone mat, which is another thing that I'm gonna recommend. If you don't have a silicone mat, it's fine. I would definitely recommend putting something over your workspace because you might spill and things do get a little bit sticky. But the silicone mats are so nice because if you overspill, you just let it harden up and then you peel it right off. So I love that. I can't remember if it was the ABCs or the earrings or the barrettes. One of them came with the mat, so I loved that set. And then the barrettes came with all the backs to it. So that was a really good set. So a lot of them, and I think, like I said, I think they were like $8 to $12, and they're reusable, of course. Now, I did find some molds at Hobby Lobby, and I purchased one. This is the one I purchased. And then it's little tags. When I pulled the resin out of the molds, every single one of them is cloudy. This is supposed to be a peacock, and it's very cloudy. Let's do a side by side. This is the same color. Do you see the sheen of this one and how that one doesn't have a sheen? And I figured out that it's because the mold is a matte mold. I didn't know there was such a thing. That's why I'm telling you. The molds that I got off of, they don't look, I mean, they kind of look a little bit different. This one's a little bit see-through, but the molds that I got off of Amazon, they're almost like sticky and a tacky feeling, kind of like the silicone mat. This one is a very smooth, and you can tell that it is kind of a matte finish. It's not anything I would have noticed. Anyway, apparently that causes your resin to be matte, which you don't want. You want the shiny finish. I have a couple hacks I'm gonna try and see if I can revive these guys because I made 5 of them. But anyway, the ones that I linked up on Amazon, every single one of them has come and they have been the sticky, they call it shiny, but I don't really. Maybe you can see with the camera. This one's the shiny and that one's the matte. So stay away from the matte because it just is gonna give you that extra step to try to make it glossy, and that's annoying. Okay, so we have our resin, we have cups, we have gloves, we have masks, we have all of our molds, a silicone mat or a workspace. You can spread out like a plastic garbage bag. That's what I do sometimes if I'm painting a big space and my mats aren't big enough. The next thing you're gonna need is tint, things to dye the resin. Like this one, I've used a couple different shades of blue. I've got a pink over here. We've got a coral. So I actually found a bunch of dyes. These are at Michael's, and they do have some, not this brand, but they have some on Amazon that are supposed to be really well. This is what they look like. This is the Color Pour brand. And then they have opaque, and then they have transparent. If you notice this, the lids to help you tell them apart. So I grabbed a bunch of sets because I had a Michael's gift card. So that's what I purchased, and I actually really like them. I think they look really cool. Let me find an example. Let's see. So this is opaque. Do you see how you can't really see through it? It's cloudy. You can tell that there's things behind it, but it's not super see-through. And then the transparent looks like that, where you can see through it. It gives it a light tint, but you can see through it. Oh, here's another example. Here's an earring. This is the transparent. So it just depends on what you're looking for, opaque and transparent. Now this is the question that I kept getting asked was, can you use this? Can you use that? Can you use this? So I experimented. A lot of you guys might have alcohol inks. I tried alcohol ink. It worked really well. It's a little bit more on the transparent side, which is fine. I really like it. And I felt like you had to add a little bit more drops. Always start with a little drop, you know, like to get your color. But I felt like I had to add a little bit more than the Color Pour brand. Another thing that you guys wanted to know about was food coloring. This is my fancy food coloring bag. Because you guys might already have food coloring, and I think this whole bag costs the same as like 5 of these. So if you have food coloring, that's a good time saver. When I was mixing it, it does look a little gritty. I feel like I had to mix it a lot more to get it in, but this is what I made with it. So this is the purple food coloring. hope you guys can see these. I'm really far away from my camera because I got my big island in the way. But it worked, and it does look a little bit more transparent than the opaque. So alcohol ink, food coloring, both a little transparent. Another thing I tried was RIT dye. Someone suggested using that because you might have a bunch of it on hand. It worked really well. I only had this apricot orange, so I have an orange head thing, or a clip. So I'm not loving the orange. I wish I would have grabbed another color, but it's a little bit more, what's the word? I just needed a drop and it turned my whole thing orange. So just a little goes a long way with the RIT dye. And of course, depending on what color you use, that might be a little bit different. And then someone asked about using acrylic paint because, I mean, I have every color of acrylic paint. Now this, I don't know if I would recommend. It mixes in fine, it dries fine, because I do worry about like if it's gonna dry. You have to put in just a little bit because if it's too much, it won't cure. It mixes with the epoxy and won't cure it. So you have to put a little bit in, but it doesn't give the resin look, I guess. It looks more like a painted thing. It's very, more than opaque, it's a very solid, it overtakes the resin. So I don't know if I'd recommend acrylic paint. You of course can try it out and see what you like. I just didn't love it. Okay, so dyes, tints, things to make it change color. The next thing you need is fun things to add into it. And that was a really fun part. So I have a ton of different glitters. One thing to note is lots of different glitters give lots of different looks. So I have a lot of really fine glitter, which looks really cool. Hang on, let me grab some examples. This one is just silver with fine glitter. So it looks really cool, but then this one is, my daughter calls it something, but I'm sure it's a slime term because she loves slime, but it's got more lines. So it's got a little bit of a different effect. The A is that same kind of glitter. This P is this chunky circle glitter. So I would recommend getting out all the glitter and trying them all out because every single one of them has a different look. We'll talk about the heaviness of glitter and maybe doing layers because it does kind of sink, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Another thing that you can do besides glitter is the foil. What are they called? It's little pieces of foil, gold foil that you can add onto projects. And I find it flecks, little gold flecks. So I found these gold, they have gold, silver, and rose gold. And these were at Michael's. I think they're color pour. They're made for the color pour. And I really liked them. It's what I lined my coasters, my geode coasters with, is that gold foil. And then you can mix it in to the resin. And it gives it a really cool chunky gold or whatever color you're using effect. So I really liked that. It's a little bit different than the glitter. Another thing that you can use is googly eyes or pressed flowers. We've got a couple pressed flowers, or we found these are paper flowers. When we get to actually pouring the resin, we'll talk a little bit about being careful with this stuff. Another question that I got asked and I tried out and I loved the results were sprinkles, because you might have a bunch of sprinkles. So you're using food coloring and sprinkles and saving yourself a bunch of money, but we tried sprinkles, just like what you put on cupcakes, and they look so cool. Look how fun this bread is, you can see. I loved it. So we were concerned, I say me and the people on Instagram. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, I'm a girl in a glue gun. But me and my followers on Instagram were wondering if, when you add the resin to the sprinkles, if the colors would kind of separate, you know, when they get wet and they kind of spread apart. But they didn't. That didn't happen at all. So I thought that was fun. Here's another one. I have an ABC of it. Oh, right here. This letter K is bigger sprinkles. So love those, love that option. Stickers. These are kind of big, but they have the alphabets. It's what I put inside of this, but you can't see it because it's so dull. You can also use paper. This is just a black construction paper, and I tore it off, and I made earrings with it. Maybe. Where are they? Oh, they're hiding. Okay, so all those black flecks are just paper. And then this guy is all just little pieces of paper too. I sure hope you can see that. If not, I will post all the pictures of all the projects close up on my blog. And you guys can look at them a little bit closer because I want you to be able to see what everything looks like. Oh, here's the flowers I didn't get to show you. These are the pressed flowers. This is one of my favorites, that letter T. And then someone asked if you could use pictures. And so I did. I found this little heart pendant and I put my husband's and I's face on it and it worked just fantastic. I had to print it out teeny tiny, but it totally worked. So you can make like an alphabet keychain and put your faces in it. So that's kind of a fun option. Lots of really fun things. Like you'll end up walking around your house like, what can I put in resin? So, like I said, addicting. So those are the basic things that you need. You also, it's handy to have matches that gets rid of the bubbles. I'll show you, once you pour it, it kind of bubbles up the top and that burns them off. You can also use a lighter if you have a big area. A lighter is definitely more recommended than matches. Sandpaper for the rough edges after they dry. Toothpick to help like push the resin around if you have a small space. The crystals. Where did I put the crystal molds? Oh, right here in front of me. They have a really tiny point down here, and so I like to put my toothpick down in there and get that resin and make sure it gets all the way in there. I have this little tiny tool from Fiskars. It's a little tiny drill. You can use like a regular drill. I just find this one is really, it's nice having my craft room because I don't have to go and try to figure out what drill bit works with my husband's drill. So loved this one, and this is what I use. They drill amazing, and then you can turn them into keychains. Here's one with the keychain on it. So I just drilled a little hole and added a keychain. And then you'll need keychains and any kind of embellishment like that. So I think that covers everything you're gonna need. So let's jump in and make something and go over how to get it done. All right, I've got my gloves on. I like to use these cups when I'm measuring because then I just use the lines on the side. And one thing I actually forgot to mention, and it's a big one, the resin takes 24 hours to cure. And that is like the worst because you wanna like reveal it right away, but you have to wait. So that's, I'm sorry. But you wanna make sure that if you are doing it in your kitchen and you don't want little fingers to touch, you might wanna put it on a cookie sheet. So after you're done, you can move it and put it in a safe place. So keep that in mind. So I have my 2 cups and the resin comes with an A and a B. This one doesn't say A or B. Hardener and resin. My other one said A and B. So you need equal parts of both the resin and the hardener. And if you don't, let me show you this guy. We accidentally put too much of, I don't even know what one it was, but look, it totally bends. So that's why you definitely want to make sure that you're doing equal parts. So one of them pours really fast. This one is not it. So the resin pours slow. It's a little bit thicker. And that means the hardener pours faster. So I've accidentally poured too much hardener because I poured the resin and it came out so slow that when I went to pour the hardener in, it came out way too fast. So then I'm gonna pour the hardener into the resin just because it's a little bit more runny, it's easier. Equal amounts of both. And then I use my popsicle stick because I just want to be able to throw it away and not try to have to wipe off all the sticky resin. Now, you want to stir this very well, but you want to stir it nice and slow. If you stir it too aggressively, it gets a lot of bubbles in it, and the bubbles stay in the resin. So it's just a nice, slow stir. And it turns a milky color. It's recommended 3 to 5 minutes to stir, But where I'm making such a small batch, I feel like 1 minute usually does really good. You want to make sure to scrape the sides. Do you see how it's kind of turning a little bit more milky? It might be hard to capture on the camera, but it's no longer clear. And you just want to make sure you're getting all the pieces at the bottom and stir, stir, stir. And I'll speed this baby up so you don't have to watch the whole time. I still have some bubbles. Can you see? Some are unavoidable. As it settles, some of them quite go away, and then the matches will help get any bubbles that rise to the top. But we're gonna do some ABCs today. So I have my mat. I should have mentioned this, but before I mix my resin, I make sure that I grab everything that you need and then open it, because if you get any sticky, then when you touch your glitter and try to take the lid off, it gets that sticky. I, of course, did not take anything off because I was too impatient. So take off all your lids, open up all of your dyes, whatever you're gonna be using. Just get them all prepped before you mix the resin. And this one has 40 minutes to work with it, so it's not drying on you super fast, which I think is nice, but at the same point, you wanna make sure that you're not wasting any time. I did a big batch, and then I made a bunch of stuff, but towards the end, it was really clumpy and it did not pour very well. And so I definitely recommend, you know, working pretty quickly, because it's not nearly as fun to work with once it started drying. So I made a big batch, and these are quite little. A lot of people have asked, how far do you think this resin's gonna go? It's 16 ounces once it's all mixed, and that is enough, I guarantee, to fill this, and maybe a little bit more. I've used, this is my second set, and I have everything I've shown you, the coasters, the tags, I've made that, and this is how much I still have left over. So I feel like it goes really far as long as you're not making anything ginormously huge. So I'm going to set out a cup. I'm gonna pour a little bit in, and I'm just gonna eyeball and try to figure out if I've got enough for the alphabet that I'm choosing. I think I'm gonna do the letter B with this one. And then I got a new popsicle stick. This one I'm gonna do yellow, so this is yellow opaque. Oh, and these need to be shaken very well before each use, because the water rises to the top, or whatever's in them rises to the top. Add a few drops. I wanted, I think, a little bit more yellow than that, so I'm gonna add a couple more. I was experimenting with the resin, and I dropped in some drops into the resin. Like, I poured the resin in, and then I dropped some drops on it and then swirled it, and it did not dry very well. It was still tacky after I pulled it out after 24 hours. So I would definitely recommend mixing it in the cup. Another thing, a mistake that I've made is I wanted some that were really glittery, so I poured a bunch of glitter at the bottom, and then I poured my resin in, but the glitter naturally settles. If you can see on this one, I've got so much glitter. Hang on, I've got so much glitter at the top, but it kind of just doesn't, like, it settles, so there's not a whole lot in the middle. So you definitely don't need to add anything before. If you're using the flowers, so if you were gonna add these flowers in, I laid the flowers down and then I poured the resin over, and that caused spots. Do you see the bubbles? It caused spots where the resin couldn't, nope, you cannot see. See the bubble? It caused spots where the resin couldn't get underneath that flower. So I recommend putting a little bit of resin down, adding in, if you want to do pressed flowers or anything big like that, and then finishing it off with resin. So always do a little layer of resin first. Okay, so I have my yellow mix, and I'm going to do sprinkles on this one. I want it very sprinkly. And then I'm just going to pour in. I'll get you a little bit closer. All right. I like to use my popsicle stick. It helps me put it in. And this one is self-leveling, which is really nice. One thing to remember is I like to over pour a little bit. Like as it settles, like you feel like it's full, but then as it settles, there's a little bit of room at the top, which creates a lip on your resin projects. So I like to fill it all the way up, just like almost so it's bubbled on the top. Depending if I have the resin, I might not have enough resin for this guy. I'll show you what I mean. I have a good example with the barrette. That's what the sandpaper comes in handy for, is after you pull it out, you might have some sharp edges and you just sandpaper them off. You can tell, do you guys see that the sprinkles are automatically going down? So this looks all yellow and the sprinkles are all right there at the bottom, which is fine. The fine glitter isn't heavy, and so I find that that doesn't sink. I'm just gonna toss that because I've used it all. See? Beauty of using plastic. So I've got a few bubbles. I don't know if you guys can see them. I'll take care of my bubbles after, but you run a match over and it just pops them off. Let me show you this is my example. Do you see how it's kind of almost puffed up over the mold? You don't want it to puff up so much that it spills over into another mold, but you want to make sure that you're overfilling, because if you don't, you get like a sharp focus. You get a sharp little lip on it sometimes because it sinks down. This one's really shiny, so it's hard to tell. So that's why I like to overflow them. Another thing is, here's my example. Sometimes I'm like, oh, all of the glitter went to the front, and so I sprinkle over glitter with it. But that glitter likes to sit on top, and then it kind of, as it settles, moves towards the middle. So that's the front. So cute, but then the back has a little bit of a weird glitter outline. So another thing to keep in mind. Okay, our next one, we're gonna be using alcohol ink, but it does have that opaque look, which I really do like. I think it looks pretty because you want the resin, I like that you can see through it. I think it looks really pretty when you're doing crystals too. Oh, you get up a little bit. I want to do these for the neighbor girls, except for we have 3 Emmas in my class at church. And so I'm like, well, if we do keychains, there's not enough E's to go around. So, all right, I'm gonna add this glitter in. Sure I am. There we go. It's got a little bit of lines in it. And then I'm gonna do the letter E, I guess. Oh, I've got a string. That's for my peacock. Peacock feather I was doing earlier. All right, we're gonna do a letter S, and we're gonna try the transparent one because I have not done the transparent yet for you. Just wanted to give you examples. I'm nothing but helpful. And if you guys have questions, leave them down below. I might not know the answer, but I might know the answer, and I might be willing to try out and see, test it out. All right, we've got, this is the transparent. Hang on, I forgot to shake it. Next up. See, it looks a lot like the alcohol ink. But it's very pretty. And I wanted to add in a little bit of these sprinkles, and then a little bit of this color. Just mix and match. Now, if you are wanting to do like a couple layers, I'm doing S, I had to think about it. I'm trying to get all of these done for my nieces because I'm running out of people to give them to, so. Okay, so if you wanted to do layers, so if you were unhappy with the way the sprinkles sink in, you can do a small layer like this, let it cure for about 12 hours, mix another batch and do it on top. And I mean, you could do that 3 or 4, I mean, you could do as many layers as you want. It just means that there's a lot of drying time because whatever the top layer you put on will still need to cure for 24 hours. So that is a way to do it if you want like a rainbow, if you want to have layers of colors. I've done it, maybe we'll do the next one, but I've done where the top half is one color and the bottom half is another color. And you just kind of have to add them both at the same time, like really quickly. So I'll do that one next and then you can kind of see what I mean. That one's gonna be pretty. Okay, so this guy, we're gonna try to do 2 colors in one. And this is food coloring. So I'm gonna add some red on this side. I'm gonna mix it up. Now, do you see how it kind of separates? I feel like I had to mix it really well to get that food coloring to become incorporated with it. So it does work. It's just not quite as smooth as the other ones, but it comes out fine and it cures fine with the resin. So I've got red, and then I'm gonna do pink on this side. So I didn't pour in as much. Oop. Since they're both in the family color, I'm gonna share popsicle sticks. I was afraid this pink might be a little too red. Let's add some yellow. I just want to get a different shade than that one. Okay guys, I had to ditch the gloves because I had to turn my camera off and grab some new sprinkles. I say sprinkles, I meant glitter. Anyways, I'm running rogue here with no gloves on. I'm gonna add glitter to each side. This is my darker side, this is my lighter side. If you do get resin on something, I feel like Clorox wipes have been really nice. Like when I get done and I realize the tops of my glitter where I had to unscrew the lids are pretty sticky, yep, Clorox wipes just wipe them up really easy. All right, I'm gonna do the letter H, which means I gotta slide this all the way over here. So I'm just gonna start at the top. And do layers. I don't know if this is going to be a noticeable difference. If you do 2 different colors, it looks really cool. I've actually done a black and white one that I love, but I don't know if you're going to be able to tell with this light pink and the dark pink. I just swap out in between. It's also fun to add just the plain resin without any colors, and it gives you like a little bit of see-through spots. I'll add a drop or 2 here. So I've made 4 alphabets. You guys saw how much I mixed. I still have about that much left. So I feel like I'm doing pretty good as far as resin. That's how much, like a little goes a long ways with these alphabets and the earrings and the barrettes. They're very thin too. Like I'll probably combine, I have a little bit left of this and I'll probably turn it into a barrette. That's what I like about having small molds and big molds, is because when you have a little bit left over, if you have too much, you just pour it in and make a matching barrette. My S has bubbles. Hang on, let me get rid of my lights and see if that helps. Okay, a little bit easier to see. Do you see those bubbles that have risen up? That's gonna happen with most resin. There was quite a bit on my coaster just because it was so big and I did so many layers. It's just like air pockets, right? And it's just the heat from the match is gonna make them disappear. Just evaporate. And I just run these over every single one of the letters I did. Just get rid of any extra bubbles. It just makes it look nice. Now, if you remember, I said toothpicks come in handy. So if you're trying to, if you want to make sure that your resin got into some of these little tiny corners, you can put your toothpick down in there and move it around, make sure it got everywhere, and then you'll want to run your match over after they've risen up a little bit. So, okay, so these puppies have to cure for 24 hours, which is the worst part about resin. Everything else is fabulous other than the waiting, but the reveal makes it so worth it. While we're waiting for them, we're gonna go over sanding, drilling, like things that happen after you pull your resin out. So let's talk about some of the problems you might run into when you've pulled your resin out. So if you notice, these guys have a little bit of overspill when you pull it off. It's just when you fill up your molds a little bit too much. It actually breaks off pretty easily. And then if there's any part that isn't breaking off, you can grab some scissors. These are just my shears, and it trims off really nicely. Surprisingly nicely. Just an easy way to clean it up. You can also grab, this is really fine grit sandpaper, and I like to rub the backs, especially of these alphabet letters, and it just smooths them out. Sometimes you get really sharp lips. Let me find one that's really sharp. Like I said, I didn't fill it up all the way, so I have an inner groove, which means this lip is pretty, you can see right here, it's a little pointy. So if you're giving this to someone, it could poke them. So like, that's what I like to give it a good rub, and it just smooths it out. It does take away a little bit of the gloss, so I wouldn't recommend doing it on the main part of the resin, but it just smooths it out pretty nice. So another problem that you might run into is you have holes. Do you see that hole where the resin quite didn't get up underneath? So the problem with this one is I put my paper down and then I poured the resin in, and so the resin couldn't get underneath that paper to fill it in. Same with these earrings. It's the same technique with the paper, but do you see that hole right there and there and there? So you can mix up a little tiny bit more of resin and try to add into those holes, and then buff it if you get any of that overspray. I did take one, so this cute daisy one, I put the flowers in, and then when I pulled it out, quite a few of them were missing. The resin couldn't get around these flowers. And so I actually poured resin at the very bottom of the mold and then stuck that back on top and pushed down, and it caused the resin to go up inside. I did get a pretty big bubble though, right there. But that's a good way to salvage it if you want to. Like, I'm happy with the bubble because I feel like I can still work with it. The other one, I mean, I was missing a gap here and I was missing a gap here. So this is definitely a much better fix. Now, like I said, I like to use these for keychains. So I just drill a little hole. You can use a regular drill. I just have this one that I like to use quite a bit. and it goes through really well. You want to make sure that you're not getting it too close to the edge. I usually clamp these down, so it's a little bit hard to do one-handed. So it goes through really easy, and then you just have to clean up off any little pieces. See? And then you can just easily add in a cute little keychain on it. And then I bought all these cute tassels at Hobby Lobby that you could add with it. Look how cute that would be. Another thing is when I made my earrings, the mold comes, here's the mold, and it actually comes, do you see this little dot? Those are the holes. So you don't have to drill into the earring at all. It comes pre-made with the hole. Same with the jewels. Let me find a jewel. So if you can see, it's kind of hard. There's the hole. They come with that part of the mold, which I love. But I overfilled this top section a little bit, so I had to swap out for a little bit of a smaller bit and then just finish drilling that hole. And then I added my jump ring. For the barrettes, I just used E6000 and glued them on the back. And you want to make sure that the E6000 that you have is clear, because the first one I used was not clear, and since the resin is a little bit see-through, you can see the glue. See, this is why I trial and error things for you, so you don't have to have any craft fails. So E6000, make sure that it's the clear. I like to buy the little bottles because by the end, the big bottles just get so nasty. Okay, so we talked about some of my projects came out with a matte finish because of the mold that I was using. And I've been experimenting, and I wanted to show you how to get rid of it. So this is what I taped it off so you could see the difference. And all I did with this one is used a clear gloss spray paint. So I think this is definitely one of the easiest ways to shine it up. You can see how cool that looks. I sprayed this one as well, and it shined that one up really nice. And then the second one is to mix a little bit more epoxy and then just do a nice top layer over it. So this is the side, this is how it came out with that matte finish, and then that's with the epoxy. So both techniques worked really well. If you have clear spray paint, I think that's just a little bit easier. It dries a little bit quicker. Like, I still have to wait 24 hours for this to cure. But if you don't, mix up a little bit of epoxy and cover it. So totally make it work moment, but it made it work. It has been 24 hours and it's time to pop them out of their molds and reveal them, which is the best part. I love it. So like I said, I like to use these silicone molds, and they're so good because you can bend them and get the molds out so much easier. If you use a hard plastic mold, it is a lot harder to get them out, and I think you have to have some kind of spray. Is it focusing? You need to have a spray that helps release it, but that's why I usually just stick with these silicone molds. Shiny. And anytime that you have a little bit of overspill, like I dropped a little bit in this too, you just wait for it to dry and then peel it out. Nice and easy. So hopefully I've answered any question that you may have ever had about resin. If not, you can leave me a comment down below and I'll try to figure out the answer for you. Basically, I'm just looking for good excuses to do more resin. So you guys can give me that excuse. I have tried to link up everything that I have used in the description. If not, you can check out my website, AGIRLANDAGLUEGUN.com. I'll have them linked up there. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and have a great day.